Hi, guys. Welcome to our Journey of a Joyful Life podcast. I'm your host, Melody Chandler, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'm very excited that today we have my dear friend, Victoria Valmain, here with us, and she often goes by Miss V or Vic or any of the other names that we call her. But she's a dear person and has been just such a treasure in my life. Thanks for being here, Victoria.
Thank you. And my grandchildren have added pickle to the list of my names.
Oh, that's right. Pickle. I bet nobody has the grandmother named Pickle. You may be the only one, but it's so cute. Especially to hear him say it with his little voice. Oh, it's so sweet. Well, I'm just so glad you're here and can't wait to hear your story. So I've asked Victoria just to talk a little bit about her story and her story of her child and her family. So how would you like to start the story from however way far back you want to go?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to lay the foundation of our family dynamic. So, I've been married to my husband, Greg, for almost 19 years. And he and I both were married previously. He has two daughters from his first marriage, and I have a daughter and son from my first marriage. And so when we met, our children were anywhere from 6 to tweens. It was not a smooth blend.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But we worked hard to make it work, and continue to work hard to make our marriage work. I mean, it's a continuous work in progress. But we married in 2007. At that point, my daughter was already living with her father in North Carolina, and not long after we got married, my son decided to go as well. And I think that has worked out for the best for all of us. And they are doing great now. And then in 2013, well, let me back up. About a year after we were married, we learned that my oldest daughter was pregnant. She was unmarried. She was 18 at the time. And that was a situation that we all struggled with. We didn't know how to handle it. We didn't know what was going to happen. We had concerns about her ability to care for a child. She had been brain injured at the age of 9. So sometimes her decision-making abilities were not real sharp. But we wanted to support her as best we could and support her baby. So we did whatever we could. She and her son were in and out of our home. She often didn't want to abide by the rules that we laid down for living in our home. And so she would leave and then she would come back. Eventually I got a call from her father in 2013, and he left me a voicemail, and at that time I was already married to Greg. And I told Greg that I'd gotten this message, and Greg said, okay, we're going to get him, and he's going to be with us forever, and we're going to be his parents. I was like, well, let me see what he has to say first. And sure enough, he said that she was struggling to care for her son. At that time, we had learned that he did have some special needs. He had received an autism diagnosis about a year prior to that. And she was unable to balance working, caring for a child, maintaining a household. So before Greg and I even entered the picture with that situation, her father and his mother sat down with her and unpacked it all with her. And she agreed that, yes, she was not capable at that moment of caring for her child. So my ex-husband and his wife brought Hayden, to Montgomery, Alabama, which was about halfway between their home and our home here in Houston, in the Houston area.
Mm-hmm.
And so Greg and I drove there and we spent a weekend together, the four of us in Hayden, so that we could just not do anything in a huge rush, but get everything, give him as smooth a transition as possible. We filed all the necessary legal paperwork so that we had power of attorney over all of his medical schooling, all of those things. And then we drove back home. And one of the first things I noticed was he didn't display any indication that he had been separated from anyone. He was very comfortable, but he didn't show any signs of confusion or distress. That I just made a mental note that was unusual. But we got home. We had already gotten everything settled. A lot of people had donated clothing to us and toys. We had already made an appointment for the next week for me to go visit the special education department for the school district we lived in. I had been able to get all of his school records. And I just took a big fat envelope with me and sat down with the special education coordinator, and she placed him in a school, and it worked out really well. He was in the PPCD program, the preschool program for children with disabilities. He had a wonderful teacher. And he was thriving in public school at that point. So he had just turned 5. So he stayed in that program for a little bit. And then I had taken time off of work to help him get settled in. And then I decided to go back to work. I went back to work the first year as a part-time para.
Okay.
And that worked out fine. And then I decided that I was ready to go back to having my own classroom again. So I went back to work and had him transfer into my campus where I was working. And that worked great for a little while. And then I had my own struggles balancing caring for him, caring for my home. So I decided again to take a step back from working. I did that for a little while. And then I found an opportunity teaching English online to students in China. And so I did that for several years. And that gave me an opportunity to continue to teach, to bring in income, but have some flexibility and be available for him whenever he needed me. And that worked until he was in about 4th grade. In his 4th grade year, he had a wonderful teacher who moved to the Rio Grande Valley at Christmas. And so after the Christmas break, he had a long-term sub and then a brand new teacher. And that was just incredibly disruptive to him. And while I don't fault anyone for that situation, it was difficult for him. So I made a decision to look for some sort of alternative placement for him. And that summer, I saw a post about a town council meeting to approve a occupancy certificate or special use certificate. And any parents of special need children who would like to speak to the need, feel free to come to this town council meeting and support this private Christian school for children with special needs. And I was like, well, sure, I'll go. And so I did. And that's when I met you.
Yes. Yes. I'll never forget that day. I remember exactly what you were wearing and how your hair was fixed. It's so funny how you imprint someone in your mind.
I would never be able to tell you. I couldn't tell you if I had short hair, long hair at that point in time. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
Or
I
what I
remember
wore. Yeah.
exactly, like
Uh-huh.
a black and gray dress, like, kind of straight, and,
Uh-huh.
the way your hair was much shorter than it is now, and
Mhm.
just everything about you, I just remember thinking like, "Oh my goodness, there's so much passion in this woman and dedication to her child." Because at that time, I really didn't know all the details of Hayden's story, you're just telling me a little bit about him, and
Mhm.
um, but I could just tell, like, I wanted you on our team. I wanted you to be a part of what we were doing. And at that time, it was so new. We weren't even sure what was going to happen if the city was going to give us the special
Yeah.
use permit or not for our school. But then they ended up giving it to us. And
Yeah.
I remember you saying, like, we were interested in the school and that I'm also a teacher. And I was like, great, you can be a teacher. I'm going to give you a job. Like, I already just felt it from the Holy Spirit and just knew you needed to be a part. And then after that is whenever we met with Greg.
Yeah.
Greg came and Hayden came.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, so sweet.
Yeah.
He was such a little nugget baby.
He was a little for reference.
Red-haired.
He is over 200 pounds now and almost 6 feet tall. So, and will be 18 this year. So
Yes.
he has grown out of that nugget into a full grown man.
Yes.
But another thing that's really important about Greg is that when we married and blended our families, he was really adamant about there are no steps.
Mm-hmm.
There are children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way he felt about Hayden as well. He is our son. If we're raising him, he's our son.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more grandson. He's our son.
Yes.
So he calls us mom and dad and has from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't really understand how, I'll explain, well, he was born my grandson, but then he became my son. So
I know. I think I even find myself forgetting
mhm,
that Hayden is not your son.
mhm.
I mean, you guys look alike. So
Yeah.
that part's not, not hard to me. But also just, the way you and Greg care for him and love him so much. And
Mhm.
you've given your lives to make sure that Hayden has such
Yeah.
a life. And he does. And I mean, he's had everything. I was thinking the other day about just your house, and how you strategically picked your house for Hayden. I think it was the picture that you sent me the other day about the gardens or something and then the back and then
Yeah.
but like, your pool is for Hayden.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great for you guys, but like
It's a lot of work. I don't think I would have a pool if it weren't for Hayden, but he loves it. And, so that's my job now is pool boy.
yes, you're
Yeah.
Hayden's pool boy. Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was the picture you sent me of him in the float,
Mhm.
with his army gun
Yeah.
thing, and that he was shooting the water gun. And I was
Mhm.
thinking, oh my goodness, just what a miracle it is that Hayden's life trajectory has gone this way.
Yeah. I
You know,
mean, we feel very fortunate that, we were blessed with the resources to be able to provide as many opportunities and advantages and um, therapies to him
Mhm. Yeah,
as we have.
yeah, for sure. Well, I know, um, Hayden joined us at Journey School along with you. You joined us at Journey School for quite a long time, and um, I want to talk a little bit about because in my mind, something that's I don't know. I don't know if it's just like a standout thing because of how like dear you are to me personally, or if it's just how I've just seen the Lord work in your life. But I just want to talk a little bit about your spiritual life because
Okay.
I feel like that I'd probably get emotional about it, but I got to see you take a journey with the Lord that I didn't expect, right? Like I expected I expected us to be friends and I
Hmm.
expected that we would have a journey with Hayden. But and I knew that you loved the Lord from the beginning. I didn't ever doubt that. But just how your relationship and your trust in the Lord developed and changed from the time that I met you until
Yeah.
now is like just one for the books for me.
Yeah. My first memory of the Lord speaking very firmly with me was in the first month of Journey School.
Mhm.
You had offered me a tuition discount,
Mhm.
and I had signed my contract with those terms.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think it had even been a month. I think it just a few weeks. And the Lord really pressed upon my heart that I needed to pay the full tuition for Hayden, despite the fact that I was working on campus. So I did that, and I trusted the Lord, and I wasn't really sure how it was all going to work out, because at that time, coming up with tuition for private school was not something that we had budgeted for.
Right.
So that's me going back to work was going to cover his tuition. Those of us who work in ministry know that we don't do it for
Right.
to become wealthy.
Right.
So it was a wash for me. I could bring in as much as I could put out for expenses. And so that is where we were. And I've never regretted that decision. And I believe that this ministry is definitely worthy of financial support. So
that's so sweet. Well,
and then the next step was going back to church. We had left church because we were told that it was dangerous for our son to be in student ministry, basically, in children's ministry. At that time, he was still young. He was 9 or 10. But basically, the only place for him was in the nursery. There was no inclusion in children's programming. So our former church was not a good fit for a lot of reasons, but primarily because there was no place for our son there. So I went back to Woods Edge Church because I had heard that the special needs ministry was might be a good fit for Hayden and for our family. So we went there, and it worked out really well for him. And one of the first Sundays we were there, there was a promotional video for Regeneration Recovery Ministry. And I'm in the service and I see this promotional video, and I'm getting out my phone and sending the email to the contact. Immediately, I'm like, this sounds like something I really need. I had been struggling in a lot of areas of my life when I came to Journey School. And so I went through the program as a participant. And then I continued on to facilitate groups after that. But that is really where I learned what it means to have a personal relationship with the Lord. And I had the privilege of having dinner with Nate, whose last name I can't remember right now, from Watermark Church, who wrote the original curriculum. And he asked me what my biggest takeaway from Regen. And I said that when I started Regen, Jesus was an acquaintance, but by the time I had finished the curriculum, I knew that Jesus was my best friend and my confidant, and the first one to go to in all times of victory and defeat.
Yes. And I got the privilege of watching that, just unfold. And even to see, I mean, I can't explain it any other way except that I saw you learn how to trust the Lord just so immensely. And I would never, I didn't know you super well, obviously at the very beginning, but it was like you went from anxious to peace outwardly is what I saw, even though I would never have thought you to be an anxious person. This is like, here we are like 7 years later, and I'm looking back over the whole time, and it's just like, it has affected everything of you, how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you know him, so deeply, because your life hasn't gotten easier from that moment until now. Actually, I can name like many more really hard things that have happened. The loss of your dad and, Hayden's just life in general and all the things that you've experienced, but just the peace that the Lord has given you, that I also want to say was because of your really hard work. Like, you chose to allow the Lord to work those ways in you. And you did a lot of hard work. I saw it every day, every day. The joy of getting to work with someone, you also see the struggle and you see the choice. You kept choosing to trust the Lord.
And it's a choice that I have to make every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a one and done choice. I'm currently in the second week of a Bible study on the armor of God.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the steps every day is to write down an action step that you can take. And one of the days this past week, I wrote down that along with my checklist of things that I need to take with me every day, do I have my phone? Do I have my keys? Do I have my wallet? Do I have on the belt of truth? Do I, am I fully armored to face what's out there in the world? And it's in my home too,
Yeah.
So every day I have to make an intentional choice to arm myself for battle.
Yes.
Because I have so many vulnerabilities. We all do.
Yes.
And another visual that the Lord gave me was caulking those crevices and cracks where the enemy can sneak in and creep in, where you don't realize you're vulnerable. And I just pray every day now. I just got that last week. Lord, fill me with your spiritual caulk so that my vulnerabilities are minimized and I am protected.
Yes. Amen. That's so good. I love that. I'm going to use that list actually. I have one of my children, the armor of God has been so powerful in their lives to have a visual of how they can be protected from the enemy. And that particular son also really loves caulk and all the things. So I think that'll be a great representation for him, but I'm going to definitely use that.
Yeah.
But I think so much about how, we allow the Lord to come in and fill us. I think especially as special needs moms, is a daily choice, and as you have chosen that, I don't want to minimize the fact that it's gotten easier, because I don't know that it has, but I think your practice of it has made it more of a like a spiritual discipline.
Well, and I think that in hindsight, the Lord was preparing me and equipping me for a really difficult time.
Yeah.
When I really needed to rely on him and trust him.
Yes.
And know that he chose me to be Hayden's mother.
Yes.
And that he was going to provide us as his parents, Greg and me, with the knowledge and resources and professionals that were able to help us solve a lot of mysteries.
Yes, for sure. One of the hardest days for me was the day that we had to have the talk about Hayden no longer coming to Journey School, for that time. And I remember thinking that I may never get to have a relationship with you in the same way, because, Hayden's not the first child that we've had to ask to leave Journey School because we weren't able to support their needs, and he wasn't the last. And the thing about that is that, Journey School doesn't have all the answers for everybody, and we're not the perfect fit for everybody. But also, we want to try until we know for sure that we can't, right? And we knew for sure that day that, even verbally, Hayden had some words about it. And so that was a big deal to me. But to have to say that he has to step away, I knew that meant that you had to step away. And
where he goes, I go.
That's right. And I wouldn't want it to be any different, right?
Yeah.
But selfishly in my heart, I was just thinking, like, who gets to work with their best friend every day, and you just not were such a dear person to me. And, in relationships, there's two sides. You can't have a relationship that's just one-sided. And we both were a part of that. And, Greg came that day, and Greg was so supportive and sweet and all those things. But there's so many emotions, right? So many emotions wrapped up in those decisions. And, I just remember crying out to the Lord, like, Lord, please don't let the enemy steal what you meant for good, because it hasn't all been bad, right?
Yeah.
And I think that about so many kiddos who've had to leave. And, the Lord had purpose and all that. And I think about Hayden now, here we are a few years after that, and Hayden's doing so well, and his needs have been able to be met, and it's been so beautiful, and you can share about that. But I just know from my point of view, I remember getting in the car that day and calling my mom and saying, I'm just not sure if Victoria's ever going to be willing to be my friend again. Because we had to ask them to, step away for a little bit. And just remember asking her, like, Lord, please pray. I mean, Mom, please pray that the Lord would just bridge. It was like we just needed a bridge in that moment. Not just for our relationship with Hayden, because we love Hayden. I mean, still this day, my daughter is over there like, my Hayden boy, how's he doing? He just, because once you were in our family, and you would have always been in our family, even if you chose, to step away in that way. And I would have had to be extend grace, but I just remember thinking, God, please intervene, And I think that's another time that I saw the Lord work so deeply in you to just, come back and have this conversation with me. And anyway, you can talk about it, but
Yeah.
it was so meaningful to me.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that we hold on to at Journey School is that behavior is communication. And Hayden's behavior, it became apparent because of his behavior that his needs weren't being met here. And not because everyone didn't try, we just didn't know what was going on. And so Hayden and I had to step away so that I could do a deep dive with a team of therapists and medical professionals to find out what the function of that behavior was. Doesn't mean that it wasn't really heartbreaking at first. And I went through a really difficult time. I threw away all my Journey School t-shirts.
It's okay.
And then, I mean, I felt so defeated. I felt like I had failed him because I had kept him in an environment that wasn't meeting his needs because I was trying to meet my own needs. But anyway, Greg and I explored many different options. He was maybe 16 at that point. So we reached out to some adult programs to see if maybe something with less of an academic focus might be more appropriate. And then
the tissue box giver is here for us.
Yes.
We're blubbering today.
And who would have thought that you would have started before me?
I know. I'm sorry. I knew it. I was prepared.
So we ended up looking into ABA therapy. ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis, because that seemed to me to be the way to really focus on what the function of his behavior was. We also tried to figure out if there was something physical going on. That took a long time. So in those 2 years, we've learned that he has gastroesophageal reflux disease and chronic fungal infections in his ears. So we have treated both of those ailments, and he is a much happier person now.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Yeah. So between all of those things, and wonderful medical care, wonderful therapy, and just a supportive community, he's getting close to being well enough to re-enter environments where he may not be one-on-one, and where he can tolerate a little more sensory dysregulation.
Right.
Yeah. So, in fact, one thing that he really enjoys doing every week is going to get his hair cut, which is so different than when he was 4
Yes.
and 5.
Aw.
I mean, for many years, he had hair down to his shoulders because he couldn't tolerate a haircut.
Mhm.
Now he gets a haircut and a shave every week at Tuna. And once a month, he gets a pedicure.
He's a well-cut
Yeah.
man.
So that's one of his favorite things to do. But we're very particular about who gives,
Right.
from whom he receives those services.
Right.
And the girl that is doing his hair right now is thinking about stepping away. And so we had to have this Greg and I had a conversation. She has offered to come to the house. And I said, well, that would be great to make, for his personal hygiene, but it also takes away this opportunity for him to be out in the community every week.
Yes.
And so we talked about how we can do other opportunities. And he said, well, we haven't taken him out to eat in a long time. So we need to be more intentional about taking him out to eat. I haven't taken him to the grocery store with me in a long time. So I need to be more intentional about doing those kinds of things. He does receive, praise the Lord, 26 hours of personal attendant service a week. So
good.
I probably need to take advantage of those times when I can take somebody with me and we can go do these things, go to the grocery store, maybe when it's not so crazy.
Yeah.
And, give me a chance to build up my confidence again.
Right. I was going to ask you that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so hard as a parent. It's
Mhm.
like PTSD. It is. It's not like it is
Mm-hmm.
because those situations haven't been fun in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trying them again is
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah. So we're just baby stepping our way through more and more exposure to more public environments and more people around him. And his behavior analyst is doing a great job of preparing him for that.
Oh, that's so good.
Mhm.
That's so wonderful. Well, about how long after you threw away our Journey School t-shirts that you wanted to see us again? Because, right now,
Right.
Victoria's on our board. She's on the board of Journey to Joyful Life, which is such a gift, but, took a little bit.
Well, we took a break for maybe a month or so, and then I realized I needed to get him back to therapy. So we came back once or twice a week for Hayden to receive OT and speech services. And he did that until he began full-time ABA therapy. And then it was really hard for me because ABA therapy, I think, is pretty taxing on him and was especially at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to put him through 6 hours of ABA therapy a day and then bring him down to the school for OT. His occupational therapist would also come to the house, but it was just a whole lot to balance. And there was a lot of overlap in the skills that they were addressing in ABA. So we chose to discontinue OT services. And his speech therapist now comes to his ABA clinic once a week. And so it's become seamless there, like it was here. But that gave me an opportunity to come back and visit and heal my heart. and yes. And so after a period of time, you approached me about serving on the board. And I met with the board president at the time and some other board members. And
this was after you had come to volunteer.
Yeah.
You had been back volunteering, at least once a week. And I will say, the time that from the day that you guys left, like Greg was here and you guys left, you came back and we had a talk. And there had been some miscommunications because everyone's emotions were really heightened. And that is the time where I witnessed the Lord. Like, I've never experienced someone else truly being willing to understand, to be willing to understand everyone else's perspective. I think that, when there's hurt and there needs to be forgiveness, there needs to be all these different pieces. Like, everybody has to do their part in the puzzle in order for it to work out, right? And I've been doing some deep dives in forgiveness and hurt and grief and mourning and all these things, just because of some other things that the Lord's having me do. But the healing cannot come without forgiveness. It doesn't mean that we have to be fully forgiving and like ready to like walk back in like nothing happened. It has nothing to do with that, and has nothing to do with forgetting. Like, I think that's so misconstrued sometimes. Forgiveness does not equal we forget the situation.
Well, I did a lot of work in region on forgiveness. And so what I learned there is that forgiveness is not an act on my part. Forgiveness is an act of me surrendering it to the Lord.
Yes.
Because He's already forgiven.
Yes.
And so I need to allow that to come through me as well.
But that's an obedience.
Yeah.
And you have to choose that. But you did. Like, you did so beautifully. Choose that. Allow your heart to soften. Where you could have so easily taken up an offense for Hayden and yourself and totally cut that off. And I think on one hand, nobody would have slighted you on that. It wouldn't have hurt anybody but you in the long run, because it would create bitterness and all the things, right? Because that's what it does.
Right.
That's what any unforgiveness creates, bitterness and dissension and gossip and all. I mean, it just continues on, right? And we've seen that so many times. But I think the beauty of what you did, Victoria, was you were obedient to the Lord. And that's what happened in your life over and over and over and over again.
Well, He clearly brought to my attention that it was so arrogant on my part to not forgive when He has. So, I was very convicted in a kind, loving way.
Yeah. Of course. But I think the Lord is kind and loving.
Yes.
He's so tenderhearted towards us, right? And then whenever we truly have that heart forgiveness, I mean, we don't forget it, but there's so much peace that can come because the Lord has used all those things in Hayden's life. I mean, I just think about the ear thing, how long it took to get to that point with Hayden, that we can finally, you finally understand. And it just seems like, why couldn't someone figure that out?
It was all a matter of timing. I had to get him to an ENT that would culture the discharge from his ear and find out what was going on, because at that point, urgent care had just been treating him with antibiotics.
Right.
And then when we discovered it was a fungal infection, oh, that makes sense. Antibiotics are going to make that even worse.
Right.
So,
but didn't you have to, she had to be willing to see him right when he had the earache?
Yes.
And normally she had to wait.
Right.
So you always had missed it.
Yes.
Time because she wouldn't let you.
So she finally put in his chart that if I called and he was exhibiting symptoms of an active infection, that I was to be worked in. And I drove all the way to Kingwood, I think, to see her.
Oh, wow.
And, yep. And that's when we got the answers to that mystery. So, yeah.
So good. I believe that probably if someone is listening in and they have a child with high needs, whatever needs that maybe their child is not considered disabled, but they have a child that has high needs, whether that be from trauma or anything else. So many times we have vulnerabilities. And because we're constantly in fight or flight as a parent, we're constantly vulnerable to take offenses and to harbor bitterness and hate. Even if we can justify, we can justify so easily all the bitterness and hate because you're protecting your child, right? It's the mama bear thing. Like I'm worthy of that because that situation hurt my child or me or inadvertently hurt us because of what it caused in our life, right? And we take up these offenses and we don't allow the Lord to work in us because we refuse to see the big picture, or we have refused to not see the big picture because we can't and only He can. Whenever He just calls us to be obedient in the moment, right? There's so many little times where that's the case. He just wants us, he purposely doesn't allow us to see it, right? It would be too much for us. We can't handle it. But then here we are looking back, seeing the goodness of the Lord over and over and over and over, and the growth that we have in our lives over and over and over. And I think just of everyone I know, you are the picture of trust and obedience of the Lord, that He has so sweetly placed that heart in you.
Well, I think you set a really good example for me because I saw you go through a lot of really difficult things as well. And you continued to glorify the Lord in all that you did. And, I kept thinking, well, how can she not be angry? And so that was a wonderful example to me too. You have been a wonderful example to me of incredible faith. And you were talking about Yame. Yame has seen Hayden at his worst when his behavior was so hard to understand. And yet she still loves him. And I've often said that Yame's love for Hayden is one of the most earthly examples of unconditional love that I've ever experienced.
Oh.
I mean, I had the love of my mother, I have the love of my husband, but that's just, that agape friendly love that she has for him and care.
She has this picture in her room. I didn't know if I had told you that.
Yeah.
It's hanging on her wall,
Oh, good for her.
Has a stick pinned in. I mean, I think it's them together, actually,
Yeah.
their picture together. Yep. And it's like, in her mind, sometimes oh, my Hayden boy okay right now? Or she'll, say, Hayden boy with Miss V, Hayden boy, where'd he go? And like, it's like, is he still there? He didn't have to leave, right? Because people leaving for her is hard. And, and then we still get to see him sometimes, not obviously as much as before, but I just know, like, there's just a thing in her for him.
Yeah.
She just chose him.
Yeah. And quite honestly, his behavior could have frightened her terribly.
Yeah.
And she still chooses to love him rather than be afraid of him.
Yeah. I think she knows he loves her.
Yame Valmain.
That's right. He used to write that all the time. Yame Valmain on his whiteboard.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But it's just a sweet story of Jesus and redemption and truly, like you said, I mean, it's just Jesus' love for us. And we get to see it lived out in our kids that we miss, like in our busy lives, and we're just so consumed with all the things. And when we break it down to just Jesus and who He is to our children, it's just so pure and sweet. And it's just love and so genuine. And I love it so much. Thank you for coming and telling your story.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
It's still being unfolded.
That's right.
I love that so much, that our stories are not over and that the Lord still has more redemption work ahead of us.
Yeah.
It might not be easy, but it's there. And I want to put a little shameless plug here for our Mom's Retreat, because Mom's Retreat's coming up pretty soon. And Journey of a Joyful Life puts on a Mom's Retreat every summer at the end of the summer for moms of children who have disabilities or trauma or just need support. And Victoria has come to all of our Mom's Retreats except for one.
Yes, I had COVID one year.
That's right.
And every day I kept thinking, well, if I feel well enough today, I'll drive over. But I never made it. That was the one time I had really been laid low with illness, but
Yeah.
yeah,
that's true.
but I never gave up.
I know every day I remember maybe she's going to feel good today. She can come.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
it's probably for the best. But anyway, our mom's retreats are so much fun. They're a little different than normal retreats. They're not really jam packed with lots of sitting and teaching, but more community time and lots of crying, lots of joy, lots of swimming pool time. And we have Laura Smith, who is LPC, who comes and joins us this year. We're going to have another sweet LPC named Amber, and she's been with us before as well. And we have Alice coming, who is our awesome worship leader. She's been with us for the last 2 years. So it's going to be really exciting and a time to just get away. So if you're interested, if you know a mom who might be interested in coming and joining us, who needs community, who might kind of fit that picture, we'd love to have them. So you can go on our website and check out the way to sign up for Mom's Retreat, or even if you'd like to sponsor a mom to come to Mom's Retreat, that would also be awesome. We have lots of sponsorship opportunities. Sorry, I can't speak today. I'm a little emotional still. But a lot of moms who would really love to come, who aren't able to pay the money to come, that we want to be able to give a scholarship to make sure that they get to have that community. So please join us or sponsor someone. We'd love to have them. Thanks for joining us today.